There are quite a few common cabling issues that happen out there in the real world, and these things show up on the objectives list for this exam. So let's talk about some common cabling issues that you might need to troubleshoot and kind of give you a heads up here. Now, keep in mind, your network cabling is the backbone of your network. Nothing's going to function if you have a cabling problem. Now, troubleshooting these cabling issues is going to be a regular task for a network administrator. And there are a few common cabling issues to watch for that you're going to see questions about on the Network Plus exam, possibly. And you will experience these out there in the field or in the real world, if you will. First of all, watch the distance on your cables. Always keep an eye on the actual distance of a cable run. Keep in mind that as you go up and down inside walls and across ceilings and around certain things, that distance can add up pretty quickly. And before you know it, you're at or near the maximum length of about 328 feet. And you can start to get interference or slight damage on the cable. And if you've got anything like that, then you're really starting to cut down on that length and you're going to start to have intermittent or just straight up communication problems on that cable. Crosstalk is another thing that can happen on cabling. Keep in mind, any copper cable is susceptible to crosstalk at some level. And by the way, you'll see crosstalk hyphenated, cross hyphen talk. You'll see it as one word. They're both correct. Crosstalk is what happens when the signal in one cable interferes with the signal in another cable. Everything we're talking about here is voltage bleeps or voltage blips, if you will, on copper. We're talking about electrical signals, and these signals can leak out of one cable into another, and they can cause problems. So, to deal with crosstalk, keep your cables separated. You got to be careful. Too many cables jammed into a tray in the ceiling or jammed into conduit for fire issues or to go through solid walls and stuff. If you get them packed too tight or too close to each other, you can create a crosstalk issue. Poor termination is a really common problem. And by termination, we mean where the cable terminates or ends. And guess what that means? A connector. Now, you cannot look at a connector and tell if it's okay. You can't look at the wiring and tell if it's okay. You should always check your cables with a cable tester before you ever put it into your network for the first time. Use a cable tester to confirm it's working properly. There are no errors. Keep in mind your connectors can be damaged. They can be improperly wired, or the wires may have been pulled out. Maybe somebody's tripped over the wire or pulled on it. Never, ever, under any circumstances, assume a cable is in working order just by looking at it. They can be very new and bright and blue and shiny. They can be not scratched or scuffed up on the connectors and still not work. So always use a cable tester. EMI, electromagnetic interference. You should always keep any kind of unshielded twisted pair cabling away from things like fluorescent lighting fixtures, microwave ovens, high voltage devices such as elevators, space heaters, old CRT monitors, all that sort of stuff in the office. Now keep in mind, I've seen some really interesting problems that were hard to troubleshoot in real life just because devices such as microwave ovens got placed somewhere. And when somebody's, cooking popcorn or warming up their sandwich, guess what? We get EMI on that cable that's too close and we can't get data to go through. Well, as we're troubleshooting it, somebody's popcorn gets done or the sandwich is warm and they turn off the microwave and they leave the office. Well, 100 feet away, we're troubleshooting and guess what? Everything starts working all of a sudden. And so whatever we've assumed, probably nobody assumed it was the microwave oven, right? And we didn't. You will see these kinds of situations. Always watch and always be leery of electromagnetic interference anywhere near your cabling. Attenuation. Now, this is a different way of looking at basically the same problem as length. Now, keep in mind, data signals weaken as they travel farther away from their source. Signal repeaters can be used to boost that signal on long runs, and everything's great. However, signal repeaters can fail. And once that happens, now you've got a cable run that's too long, and attenuation is really going to eat away at that signal, and you've got an attenuation problem on the cable. Attenuation, even if you don't have repeaters, can lead to intermittent issues on long cable runs. Let's say you've got a cable that's near its maximum length. It's working fine, and it gets damaged slightly. Somebody runs over it with something, or something else gets laid next to it, and suddenly that attenuation really becomes expensive and you start to have problems. Opens or shorts. An open in a wire is when it's not making a full circuit due to a cut in the cable. You basically have an open circuit, it's not closed end to end. And then a short is when you have data or electrical charge traveling over the wrong wire. Now, both of these are going to be the result of a cable that's damaged, and it could have been made improperly, but you're going to find either of those out because if it was made improperly, you would have caught it before you put it in the network because you always check new cables with a cable tester, right? But anytime we're getting anything on a cable that doesn't look right, we're going to use a cable tester and it will show us opens and shorts. Then we'll end it with crossover or straights. I don't know how many times this has happened. You grab a cable out of a drawer, you plug it in, it's not working, you start troubleshooting everything in the world. Guess what? You picked up a crossover cable. Most people do these different colors, they label them. They learn to do that because if you don't have the right crossover or straight cable for whichever situation you need, if you've got the wrong one, it's not going to work. So that's just some of the common cabling issues to watch for. You could see these on the exam. You will see them in real life. Hopefully, I've saved you a couple of hours of troubleshooting and yelling by going through some of these common cabling issues.